And away we go. Welcome to the first episode of the pickup meeting in 2026. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, we made it.
We did. Well, we hope so, right? Like, let's be completely transparent and honest with our audience. We're recording the first episode of 2026 in December. So, if a pandemic comes now or anything, happens, we at least made it with our podcast of 2026.
And you can't blame us. It's not our fault if we don't get to 2026. Come on.
Right. We didn't do anything to keep you from getting here.
Yes.
Are you excited today? We're back in recording.
It has been a couple weeks, it feels like. And that's kind of a weird feeling, right? We might be rusty, maybe not. But
yeah, I think it's one of these things that's fun. And I was thinking about the time delay on all of this is like, we're doing January episodes in December. And what happens if there's some serious things that occur? And so it's like, what do we want to talk about? What do we not want to talk about? People will be listening to it. They don't want to hear any more about Christmas, right? We could have done top 10 Christmas songs. There's some things we really could have done, but it's not where we're going. So we're going to at least start off today with things we're glad to never see again after 2025. So as we're going into 2026, here's some things let's never have again.
Yes, or hear. We could see them or hear them. That's true too.
Right. Do you have any that stand out to you?
I don't know. How about we've always done it this way?
Yeah, if that one could go away, that would be great. Because that is just the phrase that says, we don't like change and we think your way is stupid.
Yeah, do you? Yes. I guess that's true.
Right.
There's too much of that going on right now because the whole world is changing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of this. And so, yeah, I would love if we never heard we've always done this way. I would also like to never hear do more with less.
Yeah.
That just says we're not going to fund you where you should be at. So keep sucking it up and doing as much as humanly possible.
Yes. Now, Kevin, I have an electronic signature now on some of the Adobe stuff, but those campus forms that require you to print, sign, scan, and email back, like I could do without that in 2026.
The pandemic here at UCA was when we moved to DocuSign.
Oh.
And now whenever we have things that require me to print something out, sign it, scan it, and send it back, I feel like I'm in the 1800s.
Yes, that is true.
I'm glad that we went away from that, but it's a lot.
The one thing that's frustrating for me is that sometimes that's the way it works, and then other times, for no apparent reason, it doesn't work that way. That's really frustrating.
It is really frustrating. The other thing I would add to this list is, and people have been saying this for a while, and I think I'm guilty of it, so I'm going to put it on my never again in 2026. This is the new normal.
Oh.
December to January, it's not a big change. But like the new normal has to go away.
Or we'll fix it next cycle. The next cycle is 2026. Let's fix it.
Yes, it's got to stop. Like all of these things, language-wise in emails. Gosh dang! Like if I don't hear circle back or deep dive one more time, I will be better off in 2026.
Yeah. We don't need to circle back to this ever again.
Right. Or I don't need to know if you're doing a deep dive. And honestly, I think most people, that's like they Googled something or they put it into Chat GPT.
Yeah, deep dive means something different for every single person. That's for sure. Right?
It does mean something different for every single person.
So let's move. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's move ahead.
Yeah.
To those things that we're excited about. Do you have resolutions? Are you a resolution person?
Yeah, I don't know that I am a resolution person. Like so I did a deep dive, and I'm going to circle back to this later, Kevin.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
On New Year's resolutions, like whether they're effective or, I talk about happiness and meaning making. And a lot of times it talks about living in the present and, doing specific things. But I didn't realize this. Did you know there's a Quitter's Day? Like, so forget about resolutions. So like resolutions tend to fail. It takes about 3 weeks, right? We don't do them right. January 19th is National Quitter's Day because it's about 3 weeks after New Year's.
Okay.
Did you even know that existed?
No. One of the things that I used to do, I used to run these events at the Western Kentucky University called the Campus Advising Network. And we would, I would start off every one of these sessions by celebrating these unique holidays that occurred. And the truth of this all came about because somebody was mad that they didn't get to host a session in Thanksgiving because it's easier to do it in that time frame because you can theme it. And I was like, well, the day I'm suggesting for you is National Pirate Day. And so, which is like September 19th or something. So then like all the jokes I was doing were pirate related and arg and rated R movies, things of that nature. And so I knew there's a day for everything, but I did not know about National Quitter's Day. It makes sense.
Where will you be and what will you be quitting on January 19th? I guess that's the big question. So, I mean, look, I think the new year is always a good time to kind of rethink priorities and what you're doing. I set a theme every year, and I think themes are better than maybe specific actions. I continue to want to make better campus connections, be a network builder on ISU's campus. I'm still relatively new here. And so that's been kind of a focus in my year, and I think I'm going to continue with that. I'm a runner. I need to remember that, right? And so kind of recommitting to a healthier lifestyle. And then I was thinking about this, and our guest coming up may have some ideas here, but I am really good at buying records, and some days I'm not as good about enjoying the records that I buy. And so I need to maybe recommit to that personally. How about you? What do you got going on?
Yeah, I don't think that I'm a good resolution person. I think I would like to be, but
yes.
I think on the personal side of things, I go to counseling. I think mental health is a really important thing. And so I'd say one of my goals for this year is to be a good steward of my mental health and balance those things out. I think that's really important.
Fantastic.
I think I would like to drink more water this year than I did last year. Maybe that's a good goal to have, just be a little healthier. Obviously, continue my 10,000 steps a day trend. I think those things are healthy, and have good, healthy relationships with my wife and family and friends. I think those are good goals anytime you can refocus things.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that as I looked at things and really thinking about this topic from a professional standpoint for higher education, I think that I looked at it in 2 leadership ways, right?
Oh, that's great.
Leading with curiosity, not assumptions.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I'm hitting this right now, and that I've been doing this job for 6-7 years in this particular role. And now I feel like I've got it figured out, and that's fine. But I think that curiosity really matters in being a good steward and a good partner with my team, and not just assuming the intention and asking questions and being curious and learning more. And then the other thing is doing something that allows for there to be more space for joy, not just productivity. I think in higher education, we do a pretty terrible job of celebrating and being in the moment and being in that place because we're always ready for the next thing. And so I'm going to at least set a little professional goal to celebrate joy, celebrate the good, and not just always the productivity that comes from things.
Yeah. And I think that's a mindset or an environment thing too, right? Like, to me, happy folks are more productive, right? So I think if you start to think about celebrating small wins and thinking about the accomplishments in ways that really celebrate people, that you get more productivity too. Like, it's chicken or the egg, maybe kind of thinking, but I love that you're thinking about that. That's great. I'm going to take that too. I'm just going to steal it and use it for my own. How about that?
You're just stealing my stuff is what I hear.
That's what I'm going to do.
All right. I like it. Listen, the theme thing, I don't remember which one of us started the theme thing, but I think we've stolen that from each other professionally on something. So
yes,
we might as well just continue with resolutions of all sorts. Oh, and here's a resolution. We were talking about this here recently. You and I going to a ball game. I think you and I need another trip this year outside of the pickup meeting to go watch the Vikings and Dolphins play in Minneapolis in the fall, because that happens this year.
It does?
It does happen.
Oh my God. That has to happen.
It does. So we're going to have to figure that out. So resolution wise, I think figure out a way for you and I to connect outside of the virtual environment and the NACADA environment is a good goal and resolution for the year.
It's a great segue to our guest, because we talked about this before we brought him on, right? But Kerry Kincanon and I, we have committed to going to shows when we're at the annual conference together, music shows, rock concerts, and we've had a blast doing that. So let's bring our guest on. Why don't we do that?
Yeah. Welcome to Kerry Kincanon.
Yeah. So, it's an absolute treat to have you on, Kerry. We're joined by someone today who's shaped the exploratory advising concept on a national scale. He's been a fixture of student success and advising at Oregon State University. It's Kerry Kincanon. We're glad to have you on the show, Kerry. Welcome.
Thanks, guys. I'm so excited to be here and hang out with you in your podcast and really do some deep dive today and get into it,
Yeah.
But it's good to see you both.
I mean, if we have a good enough conversation, maybe we can circle back.
Truth.
Oh.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
We're just combining these forces to make 2026 start off this way for us.
Yeah. I could send you a form that maybe you could DocuSign, maybe you can't. Like some kind of NDA after today's episode.
That's right.
We might need that.
For
sure.
So Kerry's our director of the University Exploratory Studies program at Oregon State, where he leads that unit. And he's been known for championing developmental advising, elevating undecided and exploratory students, and building collaborative student-centered systems. Wanted to finish that introduction. You're an active member in NACADA and just an all-around great dude.
Oh, I appreciate that introduction. Most of that's true, I think. Yeah, for sure.
And also, for our audio audience, I decided to grow out my hair so that this particular episode wouldn't just be three bald white guys.
I was thinking about that coming into this conversation, that was, what the public wants, I'm sure, right?
Absolutely.
Three bald white guys talking, but yeah. Here's to my follically challenged friends.
I mean, Kerry, here's what I would say. I think that's a great band name. Three Bald White Guys.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Lots of people want to see that. No doubt.
Or my follically challenged friends.
Right.
That sounds like a They Might Be Giants song.
Yeah. I got to say, Kevin, I think you're less follically challenged than maybe me and Brody. It's looking good.
Listen, if I can win a hair competition in any room at all still, I will take it.
Both of your beard games are pretty solid today. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, you got to work with what you got left. That's what I always say, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So why don't we start asking you some questions here, Kerry? We'll get into the work stuff first, and then we'll have some fun. But, you've been a central figure in OSU's exploratory advising community for a long time. When you look back at your early years with the UESP, what moments stand out as foundational for you?
Yeah, I really, when I think about the journey that I've been on, I started with this position as a graduate assistant, as a graduate student. And I don't know that I could have been any luckier to have come into, I was definitely looking to get into advising, no doubt about that, but to come into a situation where I was working with a population that I think fed into my natural sort of interest in a lot of things and short attention span, that every student who was coming through the door had a different story. So I was really drawn to that and drawn to the idea of engaging with them on finding what's going to be a good match and a good fit for them. And so, having those experiences out of the gate and being able to have some, those meaningful conversations on the front end really, I think has defined my career in terms of, knowing that a lot of my bread and butter is working with students in transition, right? And working with students who are coming into the university and trying to find their place. And also, working with students who are, they start in a place, realize there's dissonance there, right? There's a disconnect between their interest and values and the thing that they're trying to study. And they need some good company to help navigate that. And so, really being that kind of person to students has been pretty meaningful to me. And, I think about many interactions that I've had with students over the years where we've gotten from one place to another, and from a place that wasn't so good to maybe a place that's better for them. Gosh, I love that.
It's such a great thing to be a part of that journey, and to have a little bit of influence and responsibility in the work that you do. And I can't help but think about this, that I recently had a Starbucks conversation with my admissions counselor team, and they're new and they're learning a lot of things, but they're in this role where they're engaging with high school students. And one of the things that one of the admissions counselors said was, I'm really struggling with the fact that students don't know what they want to do at this point. And my son was coming to pick me up because I didn't have the car that day. And I said, when he comes in, he's 16 years old, he's a junior in high school, ask him if he knows what he wants to do. And you think, I work in higher education, I've got all these things figured out, I'm not first generation, there's layers. And my son comes and he's like, can I get a lemonade? And I was like, yeah, but before you do, D has a question for you. And he's like, oh, well, what do you want to do in college? And he's like, I don't know, no clue, and then he went and got his lemonade. It's those conversations that I think people forget have to happen for college students that are so paramount. And the fact that that is meaningful for you, like I'm so appreciative of the work that you do year after year. And like, how do you keep that engine going? How do you keep that tick in your work occurring, that you find that success?
Yeah, what's better than observing discovery, right? I mean, isn't that great? To see someone in that process of definition and uncovering and finding something new. I think, to that situation, Kevin, which I'm really excited that you sort of put your son into that situation with your team. But I think that was illuminating to show, how do you expect someone to know? I mean, truthfully, interest comes with experience, right? And so, you may be in a situation where you're working with probably an exception, which is a student who knows out of the gate early on and has experiences that help them define that they want to major in a specific area or pursue a specific career. But the overwhelming majority don't know that, I know from my years in working with exploring students, how many of them found a major that they didn't even know existed until they got into the institution and they got exposure to things that they had never had exposure to before, and that's I think that's the promise of an institution, right? Is that you've got all these different disciplines, and you've got this, especially like at Oregon State. I mean, we're a land grant public research university. We've got 200 plus majors and options when you really look at all the things that are, when you put it all on paper. And gosh, there's a lot of potential in that for someone to find something that they didn't know was there before.
All of us majored in higher education, right? That's how we all got here today.
Yeah.
It's one of these conversations we have all the time. And I say it to first year students. I say it to their parents before they're coming in. Listen, 6 months ago, your students were sitting in a classroom or doing something in life that required them to raise their hand to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
How should we ever expect them to have a full understanding of what they want to do for the rest of their life? And beyond that, how terrifying is that question? And we forget those things.
Yeah. I think I'm always impressed if students come in to OSU, and particularly traditional age students, to where they've been in positions where they've been able to do job shadows or informational interview. I mean, some high schools are really good about that kind of thing and are really, efforting to try to get that kind of engagement and partnership. But there's a lot of have-nots out there who don't have exposure to that kind of thing. And I think that is one of the things that's kind of incumbent upon institutions, universities, to talk about that as an exploratory activity and the value of getting lots of voices in the conversation to help you get the information you need to make an informed decision.
Yeah, the one thing I always get a little nervous about. So first and foremost, Kevin, that's my joke. You stole my joke about the bathroom. I can't believe it. But secondly, right, like I get nervous that as higher education has evolved, because Kerry, I got my chops working with undecided and exploratory students in the late 90s. And to me, and I started as an undecided exploratory student, to me, I think we kind of forget that every student really does need to explore, and that higher education is a place where that can happen. Even if the student really thinks they know what they want to do, exploration, curiosity, right? Kevin kind of talked about that as one of his New Year's resolution goals. Like, that's an important part of any undergraduate experience. And I think about both of my kids who started at the institution where I used to work, undecided, and both of them through exploration were able to kind of find their footing, right? One kind of went from a skill perspective. You know, I didn't really advise my oldest daughter to major in anything, but I told her, you know, you're really good at art, and it would be terrible for you not to take an art course at some point in time. And then you take an art course, she takes an art course, and she's like, oh, I got to do more of this, right? And it's not automatically connected to a career, but all of a sudden it's building confidence, right? Early success builds confidence. And my youngest took a different tack, right? She took a great course in global economics with a fantastic faculty member and was really kind of interested in the business angle, but also loved the behavior piece and ended up in economics because it was such a great connection, the social sciences with the business piece. And without that exploration, students don't get there.
Yeah, I think it's a good observation, and obviously situated in some very personal local experiences with you, Brody. I think about something that we did at Oregon State, decade plus now, but you both have been with NACADA long enough. You've known about the phenomenon of advising syllabi or advising syllabus. And, as part of our process to wrangle the way that academic advising worked for undergraduates on this campus, and particularly first-year students, we developed a first-year advising syllabus. And one of the, we tried to essentialize sort of the cornerstone things that we want students to learn in their first year. And one of the things that I was super happy that we put in there was we centered exploration. And we didn't frame it as you should all be exploratory students, because there are definitely, especially at Oregon State, where we're pretty STEM focused here, really big school, College of Engineering and agricultural sciences and forestry and things like that are happening here. We've got a lot of students who come here for that. And so it's not to say that you necessarily have to start it in exploratory studies, but you should be exploring. You should be thinking critically about what you're liking, what you're not liking as you're having the experiences, because that helps you refine your choice. I love what our College of Engineering at Oregon State has done, which is essentially the first year, students can be any engineering major. They can go into it and choose mechanical or electrical or civil or what have you. But the design of the curriculum in the first year really accommodates change. It really accommodates giving them exposure to all the engineering disciplines. And a lot of those students will find that, hey, something over there fits better for me than the thing that I'm starting as. And I think that's good. That's part of the refinement that happens with exploration.
I think one of the things that you hear often with the undeclared exploratory population, and part of your answer you just had gives some insight to this, but they worry about connection and belonging with the institution. What are ways that you feel institutions do that really well in ensuring that connection and that belongingness occurs? Because a lot of folks will go, well, if they're not my college, they're kind of out there on their own. And I don't necessarily always buy into that, because the university is bigger than that college to begin with. What are things that you've seen that have made that a real successful situation?
Yeah. Well, from where we were when I started at Oregon State, which feels like the dark ages now, but I think it was the 90s, man. That's a long time ago. To now, I've definitely seen our academic colleges be, in general, a lot more accommodating to exploring students. So, we've got some high volume colleges. And what I mean by that is a large number of students, right? Our College of Engineering, our College of Business. And they've got a set of introductory courses, both of those colleges, that run through the course of the first year. And, for, again, traditional first year students, or even students coming in who don't have prior college experience, they've been super generous about giving exploring students access to those opportunities. And so as one of those exploratory strategies, taking classes in the discipline, I think that the fact that they are allowing students to get their foot on the ground and being a part of that community and that setting is really wonderful. I've cultivated relationships with those colleges so that they think of us now when they got something good going on. Like if they've got an event that is going to be informative or helpful about the culture of their particular college. I mean, we're pretty good at looking for that stuff in my shop, but they're also pretty good at letting me know. I myself am on a lot of our college's student listservs. So like I'll get messages from our College of Education or our College of Earth, Ocean, Atmospheric Science that they are sending to students about something that's going on. And so we've taken to curating our own Exploration This Week website where we put in here's this event and here's why you should go if you're thinking about X, Y, or Z.
It's simple and practical. Yeah.
And, it's a choose your own adventure as a student, right? If you are able to engage with that, we hope that you do. We talk about exploration in terms of a to-do list. Different things work for different students. What are you trying? What's helping you learn more about that particular area? Kevin, to your point, and I've seen some folks across the country do this, where they get their exploratory programs will get more into a meta major kind of setting, where they'll have thematic tracks that their students will follow. I mean, we're not to scale. I mean, we're a large research university, but I think, we can largely sort of impose those thematic ideas on our individual engagement with students. But some schools will just embed that. They'll say, well, you're on a social science track, or you're on a STEM track, or what have you. And I think that's another way to try to build some thematic community around a student's journey.
That's fantastic. Kerry, I know your institution's done some big change, right? Big advising change stuff. Can you maybe speak about how leading that kind of change from your vantage point, especially as expectations for advising continues to grow, what you've accomplished at Oregon State?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, I like our culture in the sense that we do try to put things under the microscope and look at how we're going about our business and how we can do things better. I know you've both been at a variety of institutions, and one of the hallmarks of a larger research university, in particular land grant, is that the colleges have their own identity, and it can lead to some decentralization and sort of potential silos. And so we've worked to bridge across that with our advising community. We have a university advising leadership team that's made up of directors of advising from across the colleges. In fact, we have a retreat tomorrow that we're all going to be on. And so, we're in community with each other. But we also, what we did is a few years ago, we engaged in a pretty comprehensive review of academic advising. And we're kind of looking at concerns about consistency to the student's experience and how we can improve that, knowing that, we have a lot of migration, like a lot of colleges and universities do, where students change their mind about their pathway and leave one college to go to another. And so we're thinking about, well, how do we help them on that journey and that transition? So we did this advising review, and we did an internal examination. We had consultants from NACADA come in and do an external review with us and sit down and make some recommendations to us. One of the things that we've never had at Oregon State is sort of executive level leadership of academic advising. We've always had some AVP or someone who had sort of oversight, but it wasn't their main job. And one of the offshoots of this review, as we implemented some of the recommendations, was to create that position. And so as of November of last year, we have Dr. Carla Harkerode, who's now my boss, as our executive director of academic advising. Nice. And as part of that transition, I also took on some different responsibilities. I still have oversight over university exploratory studies, but my title is director of new student advising. As director of new student advising, one of the things that I've taken on is thinking about that critical first year and that onboarding experience from the time that a student deposits to the end of their first academic year, and the role that advising plays in that. So I'm working very closely with our director of new student onboarding, thinking about how we help students orient to the university and navigate that continued onboarding through their first year, and particularly how we think about advising as it fits into that. So the infrastructure that we embedded here at Oregon State is each of the colleges has a director of advising who has a dotted line reporting to Carla, and each of the colleges has a lead, someone who's responsible for sort of shepherding new student advising in their college, and they have a dotted line reporting to me. And so we're building community around that concept of new student transition for first-time first years and new transfers to OSU, to help, again, with the consistency piece, but also to make sure that we're covering the bases that we want to cover with those students as they come into this place.
The thing that stands out to me in that, and several of your answers have hit on this today, Kerry, is really three phrases stand out that institutions don't always do, which is an investment in the people, right? We hear this all the time that advising offices and areas have so much turnover, and so then leadership is new, sometimes not having been in an institution for a long time, and that's not necessarily the case at all institutions, but that investment in people and what you're doing and why the importance of advising matters. The intentionality of what you're talking about, the work that you all have done at Oregon State, people have looked at for quite some time and said, yeah, there's some good in this. But even in that, you were intentional in saying, what more can we do and how can we do that better? And then commitment, that it is a commitment in student success, a commitment in doing things different. And those things are really powerful when you're applying those to students. And I don't know that there are a ton of institutions that are practicing that as much as they're preaching it.
And Kevin, there's a fourth one, and that's community, right? Developing the community that exists, right? Putting people together in the same room, sharing successes to kind of create that consistency. You have to bring people together as a community to kind of make that happen too. And it seems as if that's been an intentional component of the changes that you've made.
Yeah, we've had a lot of overhaul, I would say, at OSU certainly in the last year. I mean, we have a new gen ed. So we're kind of working with two gen eds right now, depending on where a student is in their process. We did an overhaul of the new student onboarding to try to think about it not just as a orientation, right, but think about it as sort of the arc of a student's experience from deposit to the end of their first year. And then we did this overhaul, I guess, to a degree in advising in terms of imposing a different structure on it. All with the idea of, again, enhancing the student experience, creating more consistency, but also, Brody, the community piece is big. I mean, we've tried to attend to that to Oregon State over the years for sure. We have kind of a grassroots advisor coffee talk program that a lot of our newer in position advisors will run to try to help them get the information they need to do their work. And I have been happy so far. I mean, we've got a ways to go, but with the community that we're developing around this new student advising principles, I've got the dotted line folks who are in the conversation with me are great. It's been wonderful to sort of be working with them, and they're nothing if not honest. They're talking about the fits and starts of dealing with new models across the board, dealing with new gen ed and all that. And so we're there's at least maybe more public airing of grievance, in the sense of that we're talking about this stuff and we're trying to get to the heart of it right away.
It's great.
You mentioned new people in positions, new supervisor, new structure, all of those things. I'm just curious, and when you think about your own development, who have been some of your most influential mentors inside or outside of higher ed that really have grown you to be the professional you are today?
Yeah. Wow. We got a couple days for this, right? There's
For
so many
sure. We'll
people,
keep going.
I think about the person who brought me into the GTA position, who Brody knows. He ended up taking her position at USI. Stephanie Hamilton was there before you, and
That's
Stephanie
right.
Stephanie was the one who hired me, and she was sort of the first. At that time, it was called the coordinator of University Exploratory Studies here, and really did a lot to set the foundation. And one of the things that I learned from Stephanie is attention to detail.
I was just going to say that.
I remember being in that first year, and this was back in the day of paper files, and Stephanie would review my files and go through and write notes. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just screwing up left and right. But, truthfully, that's part of the process. It was really cool to have someone paying attention to the work, because when you're working with exploratory students, you got to know a lot about a lot.
You do.
And, you've got to be attentive to the scope of things across the institution. So it was, in the scheme of things, it was super helpful for me to have someone like that looking out for me early on. So really appreciative of Stephanie, and really appreciative over the years. I've had, even though now it took a little while to get into this situation where we are structurally under university advising, I've had a lot of sort of directors and ABPs that I've reported to over the years who have been really good about, letting me follow my bliss in a way, being involved with NACADA, right? I got involved early on about a decade ago, where I got to be on the faculty senate committee in charge of gen ed, and ended up, I was the first advisor ever on that committee. And then, actually ended up being a co-chair of that committee for a couple of years. And it was cool that the advisor who followed me in that position is now our director of gen ed here at OSU. So, I think it was cool for that faculty senate committee to see how much advisors know and help students make meaning of gen ed experiences. And so I had a boss who let me do that. That was, Moira Dempsey was her name, and she was phenomenal. And so I think about those folks, and then I think about the people that I've learned from in NACADA over the years. A lot of folks in the exploratory community, whether that's Kathleen Shea Smith or David Spite, or even Art Esposito has been a good sounding board for things over the years.
All great.
Yeah, and then also Brody, Brody and I and Kevin Free were lucky enough to be in the board of directors, right? And so just hearing those different voices of expertise, our colleague who came in with us on the board, Brody Karen Archambault. I mean, how much have I gleaned from just listening to Karen and hearing her wisdom over the years? It's pretty phenomenal to have all those friends, but also kind of collateral mentors throughout the process.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. Just the community is strong in advising. There's no question about that. And there's nothing like a supervisor who's going to let you spread your wings. I mean, I have felt pretty lucky in my career too, to kind of have that support, right? To go out and try new things, or to get involved in stuff that was really important to me, and have that not be a burden, right? Like it was really encouraged. And nurtured. And I think it makes all the difference when we talk about supervision and working with folks and helping get the most out of people, right? While keeping them happy, right? And celebrating kind of the work itself. And so I love that response, Kerry, right? I love that you have people, but the community itself, I think, has been tremendously supportive to you, it sounds like, and that's wonderful. We've asked this question of almost every person that we've had on, and I want to kind of get your take, but obviously data is kind of driving a lot of our decisions these days. And how has it guided your team's work while still centering on kind of some of the relationships and the curiosity and the human complexity that comes with working with undecided and exploratory students?
Yeah, what a timely question. So we have a new provost at Oregon State, and this is one of those situations where you're happy it's happening, but it's also like maybe adding some things to the plate.
Sure.
So our provost, our new provost, is super interested in persistence, right? And particularly thinking about that critical first year. So it dovetails really well with the infrastructure that we built for advising here, and also the things that we're doing with new student onboarding. And, looking across the data, he's particularly has a keen eye on exploratory students. And, one of the things that they're being attentive to is the persistence of that population. And so we're engaged. We have done this. We've always tried to engage with our population around nudges and an invitation to come in, and using whatever systems we have available to us to figure out where students are they getting hung up in the process because of holds, are they not engaging, what's going on there, and trying to, through in some sense the relational aspects of advising, being that partner to them, paying attention to what's happening here. You're not engaging, you're not registered for next term. And so that's been on the mind of this provost, and they've implemented some really sort of cross campus, like it's called FIRE, first year retention and registration, paying attention to that group. Where are they? Why are they not registered? And you guys know, with exploring students, there's a lot of variables there. There's a lot of reasons why they might not be progressing or registering. And so I think from my group, what we're trying to do is make sure we have a good sense of the story for each student. So we're working the list right now. We're going through and figure out who's not registered and trying to understand why, what's going on there. Is it a fact where they've made the decision that they're going to transfer? Is it a fact that they're navigating an account balance hold or something that they are working to resolve? And is it a fact that they've sort of fallen off the radar? How do we get them back on? I mean, that's what we're doing now in a very sort of attentive kind of way. We are in our finals week this term, and so we're really working that as we go forward.
In the setting that you are in now, you sit in a role where, whether informally or formally, you're mentoring people around you. You're impacting the way that they function, the way that they lead, the way that they grow. I mean, I think about it from our interactions, that every time I interact with you, I'm like, gosh, I wish I had the depth of thinking that Kerry puts into everything he does, right? Like, there's a patience and a depth that you have that is admirable, that I won't ever get to, but I sure strive to be better than I am at it. And so I'm wondering, like, what lessons do you hope that the people that are around you carry forward, that comes from you, that comes from Kerry as a leader?
Yeah. Wow. I appreciate that the compliment. And I'm super flattered and humbled by it. I hope, I really try to, I think, lead by example, and also am someone who's, going to have my hands in the soil, as it were, in terms of working with my folks. And I think that's part of why I've sort of stayed positionally where I am, in a sense, because I still get a chance to work with students, but I also get to think about this stuff critically and think about things from student success lens that that is hopefully putting our students in the best possible position for them. We talk about this in exploratory studies all the time about there are situations that maybe aren't necessarily a win for the university, but are a win for the student. Many I've worked with exploring students over the years who through their process decided that really what they wanted was more of an applied technical degree, that was a better fit for them. And so helping them move forward into that is good. And I think for us, modeling that behavior, both for the advisors who are working with those students and accepting that even though there may be closing the door per se on Oregon State University, that they're not closing the door on their own development and their own learning, that's a win. Right. And also for the administrators above who are really kind of paying close attention to that numbers game. I mean, I get it. I understand why you want to be concerned with students sticking around. I mean, it's a lot cheaper. So I don't even like that term maybe, but it's a lot more cost effective to retain a student than to recruit a student and to take their place. And so to the degree that we can ride the line between those things, that's what I'm hoping I model for both the folks who report directly to me and also the folks who have that dotted line and are in community with me around this new student advising experience.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. God, I could listen to you forever, Kerry, but let's talk about something where maybe I can contribute, and that's music. Let's start having some fun, right? Like you are. I am a massive music fan. Kevin Thomas would agree to that. And he's kind of the odd man out here in the sense that he said he would have trouble keeping up with the both of us. But, I mean, I think I'm a huge fan. You're the biggest music fan I've ever known.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say to it other than yes, hard yes. That's where I invest a lot of my energy and my time for sure.
And here's where I struggle, right? I have been to as many concerts in my life as you two have been together. It's probably less. So I like music. I do. But once you start to get into some of the bands you like, I'm going to hit mute. And then we can just go on.
So, Kerry, what genres or artists are dominating your shelves or dominating your time today? Like, let's just talk 2025. What's been really good for you this year?
Yeah, where I find myself, interestingly enough, as an English major and someone who loves story and loves words, I find myself really gravitating towards a lot more instrumental music, and whether that's in the form of sort of contemporary or alternative jazz, or whether that's in the form of like ambient music, soundtracks, things like that, are tending to sort of feel really good to me right now. And so, I think that's a lot of maybe what's novel there over the last few years is going towards that. But I'm all over the map, man. I got, pick a day and I'm probably listening to something unique that day for sure.
That's great. Do you have a favorite all-time show that you've attended, Kerry? I mean, how many shows do you think you've seen? 1,000?
How old am I? Yeah. Well, I pretty much started going to shows when I was 15, and I'm much older than that now, right? I'm closer in age to Brody, 53, and so, I'm easily hitting probably 2, 3, 4 a month, depending on the month, right? So you can do the math on that over the scope, particularly once I started to. Now there was a period there where I was working in music stores, and so I got to go to a lot of shows for free. I was on guest lists, and so that was nice. But a lot of my disposable income goes towards that for sure. So, Brody, I was an English major, not a math major, so I don't even know if I can go there.
So you were in a band for a little while too, Kerry, right? So you were a musician. How has being a musician changed the way you think about music as a fan?
Oh, wow. Well, I have an appreciation for what musicians go through to share their art, no doubt. I mean, there's an economy to it, especially if you're a touring musician that's phenomenally complex. And, you hear kind of horror stories about this these days, about like really big substantive artists who have to bail on tours because of the expense, because of they're just not getting the return for them, and it's costing them more money than they're making. So I think I have that appreciation. I think I have the appreciation of, a lot of being a musician is hurry up and wait, right? You got to get to a venue, you got to do sound check, and then you're waiting to go on. And there's that anticipation of that experience. And so I like that someone can learn how to effectively manage their time within that scope. It feels like, oh, you're only working 2 hours a day or whatever. And that's just not the truth of it. I mean, sure. Traveling to a venue and setting up and tearing down and all that is a lift.
All right. But if you're going to pick a bass to play for the rest of your life, what bass are you picking?
Oh my goodness, Kevin. Well, I currently have my Rickenbacker, which has been with me for a long time, and I like that a lot.
That's the answer, by the way. All the other answers are secondary, but that is the answer for sure.
Yeah. So we can go with that. I also, it's kind of my like pie in the sky dreaming, where I find these folks who make custom basses that are, $10,000, that kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't have that kind of disposable income to put towards this, but sure. I drool over those all the time.
Yeah, when I worked in the record store or in a music store growing up in high school, the Rickenbackers were always hanging on the wall. And it's like, okay, if I'm going to get out and play something and do the bass line and go through, I'm practicing on those. And so I got to play a lot of Rickenbackers in my life, but do not own one, and they are smooth.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a sound, and certainly the last band I was in, that sound worked really well.
Very cool. So this is jumping out of music. You good, Brody?
Yeah, I can come back to it at the end. We'll ask him one more question, but yes, that's great. Let's get out of music and go to some different stuff.
All right, sports on TV versus live. You've got a preference, and we're interested if you can defend this.
Yeah, well, I definitely prefer watching sports on TV than going to the event live, mainly because, I talked earlier about my short attention span, and I like to multitask. And, this fall, you guys know this, or at least Brody knows this, that I grew up in Nebraska. So I was born and raised a Nebraska football fan. And this fall I went with my siblings to the Nebraska-Minnesota game. And it'd been a minute since I'd been to, a game like that. I've gone to a few Oregon State games over the years, but maybe I wasn't as attentive to it. TV timeouts, driving me nuts.
Yes,
because it was taking them forever to get back on the field, and I'm like, oh man, I could be doing something now.
Right.
So I'll get up and unload the dishwasher, or I'll be, doing other things. And so that's one of the reasons why I prefer it live. And I feel like I miss a lot of stuff live that when you're watching on TV and you're just like, oh, I can stop that and go back and look and see, I like sort of the intricacies of the sport, particularly when it comes to football and baseball and things like that, where I'm like, it helps to be able to rewind, and you can't do that when you're there live.
I love that you mentioned that you like listening to baseball on the radio. Yeah. I got my wife into baseball by listening to baseball on the radio. She loved listening to Jack Buck and Mike Shannon do the Cardinals broadcast. That's how I got her to love Cardinal baseball, was actually listening. She found those guys pretty charming and fun.
Yeah. Well, talk about being able to multitask. I mean, you can, have stuff in your headphones and walking the dogs and doing all this stuff and get a whole good afternoon in with baseball games. But I think, good baseball announcers, there's nothing like it, right? I mean, those two that you mentioned, they're just great storytellers, and I really appreciate that. One of the things I love about Oregon State, we have a pretty successful college baseball team, and our announcer, the guy who's this guy named Mike Parker, he's like Vin Scully acolyte. He's just like that. He can sit and just pontificate and weave these stories, and he'll be working through literature and Bruce Cockburn records and all these different things during the course of a baseball game, and you also always know what's going on in the baseball game, and that to me is just an art. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of an art, it's time for the lightning round.
Yeah, let's go.
Lightning round.
It blows my mind when lightning round gets here. We've hit those levels. Thanks, Matt Markin. That was great.
I heard that on the last podcast, and I was just so here for it. I was waiting for it to happen. So
it's so fantastic. All right, so I'm going to start with favorite spot on the Oregon State campus.
Oh my, I do. Interestingly, my office is like located right next to the baseball stadium, so I get the ambient sounds of everything, practice, the sound system testing, all that kind of thing. So I like that. I also am a big fan of our union. Our Memorial Union is just a beautiful space. It's a fun building to walk through and kind of lose yourself in.
Very cool.
What are your dogs' names?
Current dogs are Walt. Full name is Patton Oswalt Whitman, and Sligo. So Sligo is named after a city in Ireland.
And would one of them, which one would win in a fight or in a race at the dog park? Like,
well, Walt came first, and Walt was always king of the dog park. He was like Norm on Cheers. Just everyone was happy to see him show up. And it was super fast. Everybody's like, how fast is that dog? He's amazing. And then Sligo came in the picture. They're both about the same size, but Sligo's a younger man. You know, he's a little over a year, and he's faster than Walt now. So
wow.
Oh my gosh. So speed demons, those two, way faster than me.
This is jumping back into the music a little bit. What's a song that always lifts your mood?
That's so hard, Kevin. There's a many of them.
While you're thinking about it, I'm going to say that Brody says "Hey Ya" by Outkast. No, I don't really know what it is.
I would take that one.
I like that song.
It's fine.
Yeah. There's nothing to hate about that. You know, Brody, I think a few years ago I shared my hype video, the Caribou song "You Can Do It" with the dogs in the video.
God, that's such a great song.
You know, even listening to that, I get energized with it, but the video itself is just like,
yeah. Like I was thinking about this, Kevin. You asked this question showed up. There's a band called Stars that's from Canada, and they have a song called "Hold On When You Get Love and Let Go When You Give It." And they have a lyric that says, "Take the weakest thing in you and beat the bastards with it." And I just think it's one of the greatest lyrical kind of curiosities I've ever heard in music. Amazing.
Yeah, there are no shortage of perfect songs out there for sure.
Kerry, is there something still on your bucket list that you haven't done that you really want to do?
Oh, I think it always centers around travel, right? There's places that I feel like I need to and want to go. You know, New Zealand, Australia, Oceania is big. I feel like I'm feeling really drawn to Scandinavia of late for some reason. You know, I'm learning more and more as I get older that I have no interest in heat and warm, and those places don't look warm. So I'm like, maybe I'll go there because it's nice and cool.
Let's see. So we asked you to send some things, and I didn't know this about you, but you enjoy grocery shopping, Kerry.
Yeah.
Like, is there a go-to item or a go-to store? Like, what do you?
Oh, grocery stores are awesome. I know it's, you know, I'm probably mythologizing a little bit, but I often think, what a great retirement career just to work in a grocery store. But you know, I'm sure that's a lot today. Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot. You know, there are negatives to any place, but I love it's my meditation. Truthfully, there's nothing better for me than either a grocery store or a farmer's market, just walking aisles and considering possibilities and things like that. I love to cook, and so yeah, that's part of my weekly ritual. I'm in it.
I could not love that enough. And maybe, Brody, I don't know what question you might have next, but when we started this conversation with your career, which is helping exploratory students, and you kind of end it with grocery stores and considering the possibilities. Those two things aren't very far off. The work that you do with students is a career of considering possibilities and all the things that are there.
Right. This is of all the sort of negative things about the internet, it is one of the really cool things about the internet is if you've got a couple of ingredients, you can just type them in and get, you know, a lot of different possibilities, a lot of recipes. And so I find myself doing that often. I'm like, well, I have this and this and this in the fridge. What can I do with it?
Kerry, I'm sure we have a lot of music fans that listen to our podcast, at least a couple.
Brody and his wife. No,
maybe in the tens. But do you have a top 3 albums of 2025?
Oh man. Yeah, always a tough thing. And I spend a lot of, you talk to the folks about the fact that we're doing this in December. I spend a lot of my December sort of thinking about that and cultivating the list. I'll cite a few things that are on repeat. There's an album by an artist named Oakloo called Chokin' Up. It's, I don't know where she's based, but I keep coming back to that one again and again. Sort of a little bit electronic, a little bit pop in there. I am a big fan of this record by S.G. Goodman. Kevin, if you don't know S.G. Goodman, she is from your neck of the woods in Murray, Kentucky. A singer, songwriter, grew up in that area, and has just a phenomenal sort of record this year called Planning by the Signs that is about as literate and compelling as any record I've heard in many years. I've got an album, Brody, that came out at the beginning of the year called by an artist named, is a jazz trumpet player named Ambrose Akinshore. Do you know that record?
I love that record. Yeah.
And the name of it escapes me now. I should remember it, but I listened to it enough times for it to resonate. So yeah, I would cite those 3 among many, many, many others.
Well, Kerry, thank you so much for sharing your music expertise as well as your higher ed expertise. It was such a great pleasure to have you on the show.
Appreciate that so much. It was really my pleasure to be here today, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much, Kerry.
See you, Kerry.
The thing that happens, and I can't help but reflect on when you have a guest on, and especially the combination of you two together in your music. If you've ever seen the movie Yesterday, which essentially the premise of this movie is the guy gets hit by a bus and all of a sudden the Beatles don't exist and he starts recreating the songs and becomes famous and celebrity. But there's a scene in that when he sings Yesterday for the first time and people are just blown away by it. And one of the guys says, you see, when these music guys get together, they talk about these artists that everyone should know about that no one actually has ever heard of. And I feel like that is the environment in which I'm in when I'm with you and Kerry. It's like, I'm going to do my best to hang in there. And I'm going to remember S.G. Goodman from Murray KY. But beyond that, like, you all are at a different level.
It's okay. We can all be at different levels. That's what's great about music. Like, it's so... right, so subjective, what we enjoy, what we listen to. I thought we'd kind of do our top 3 list. Like, I mean, we asked Kerry for his top 3. Yeah. Like, what were your top 3 music kinds of ideas this year?
So this is funny because if you are a Spotify listener, you probably participated in your year-end Wrapped session, and you said best album of the year. Well, for me, it gets to the end and it's like, you listened to this many albums this year. My answer to that was 1. I listened to 1 complete album, and it was the How to Train Your Dragon movie album this year. That's the only thing I listened to the entire album of. I found humor in this as well when considering music and top 3 things, is that when it gave you a listening age this year.
Yeah. How old were you?
I was 57 years old, Brody. I was older than you. I was 57 years old. How old was yours?
I was in the 50s, I think.
Okay. Yeah, like I don't know what I really thought it was going to be, but 57 caught me off guard. It said because I am I like music from the early 80s. I'm an old soul. I hate you, Spotify. But when it came down to things, one, it said I listened to a lot of podcasts, and ours didn't make the top 5. So I'm not listening to us that much.
That's good. That's good.
But my top artists of the year were AJR.
Oh, fun.
And we were talking about certain things. My son got me into AJR. We went to a concert together, but I really love their song Inertia. that hits with this lyric, because where I'm going is right where I am. And gosh dang, I love that lyric so much.
That's fantastic.
John Powell, who is the composer of the How to Train Your Dragon. So I must have listened to a lot of it when the movie came out this year. And then surprising for me, number 3 on the list was Dave Matthews Band. I really thought it might be Prince because I listen to quite a bit of Prince on Sundays as I'm watching Vikings games. That's an unrelated story. But Dave Matthews Band was my number 3. What about you?
Yeah, that live Dave Matthews, the first one from like 95 from Red Rocks, that's in my car right now. I think I was listening to that this weekend. My top 3, so I love Rustin Kelly, and that was the first show that Kerry and I went to see together, I think in 2019 in Louisville, and his new album is amazing. The Beths, which are kind of a female-led band from New Zealand, I believe, just perfect pop, and I love their new record from this year. And then Stereolab made a great record, but the new Matt Berninger record, he's the lead singer of The National, is fantastic. I can't get enough of that record right now. And so those are the 3 I'm going to go with.
I love it. This was a great episode. I had a lot of fun.
If you're a music fan, you loved this episode, at least if you stuck around till the end.
Music fan, exploring with students, talking New Year's resolution. I will say, Brody, my son does listen to the show, and he said to me afterwards, he said, every time a guest leave, you pause for a second, and then Brody says, how fantastic was that? And so I think we should end today on how fantastic was that? Just amazing. Great job to you. And thank you, Brody, for being on the show. Or thank you, Kerry, for being on the show today.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me be on the show, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Listen, I voted you off over the new year.
Hey, we hope, any meetings that you have, whether it's formal or a pickup meeting, that they go as well as this one did today. Until next time, how about do good, be nice? Friday for sure.